Imagine walking into a room where every handshake feels like a dagger. That's exactly what happened to Ava Johnson, one of the most powerful black women in business today. She didn't come from wealth. She built her empire brick by brick, deal by deal. And now here she was, standing in front of one of the richest families in America, about to close a $900 million partnership. But what Ava didn't know was that they had other plans. Plans that would humiliate her in front of cameras, executives, and media. They thought they could play her. They thought they could own her. But they forgot one thing. Ava Johnson didn't get this far by staying silent. And what she did next? It didn't just shock the billionaire family, it sent ripples through Wall Street itself. It was supposed to be a celebration. That's what everyone said when the invitations went out. A groundbreaking moment in tech history, the headlines teased. The first major partnership between Nova Systems, the billion-dollar tech startup founded by a black woman, and the Delacroix family, one of the richest white dynasties in America. The setting? A luxury conference hall in Manhattan. High glass ceilings. Velvet chairs. Silver trays of untouched pastries. The smell of wealth so thick you could taste it. Ava Johnson didn't need to be here for the free coffee. She was here for one thing: legacy. For years, she'd fought tooth and nail to build Nova from a tiny tech consultancy in her garage to a rising AI powerhouse with offices on 3 continents. This deal with the Delacroix family was the last piece of the puzzle. A $900 million infusion of capital. Doors swinging open in Washington. Patents fast-tracked. Global rollout in months, not years. To everyone watching, it looked like Ava was about to take her seat at the world's most exclusive table. But Ava? She knew better. She didn't come from gated communities or Ivy League lineage. She came from the streets of Detroit, where ambition was currency and excuses were debt. And when she walked into that room, with cameras flashing and reporters lining the walls, she already felt the shift. The Delacroix family didn't stand. Didn't offer handshakes. Didn't smile like partners about to celebrate a historic deal. Instead, they looked at her like they were doing her a favor. The first comment came soft, almost friendly, from the youngest son, Jared. "Must feel surreal for you," he said, swirling a glass of mineral water, "coming from, well, where you came from." The room chuckled. But Ava didn't. She just smiled, sharp and silent. The next hit came dressed as a compliment from the patriarch himself, Charles Delacroix, a man whose family made its fortune before Ava's great-grandparents were even allowed to vote. "I've got to say, we're impressed," he said, leaning back in his chair. "It's refreshing to see someone like you stepping into spaces like this. Someone like you." It was clear. To them, this wasn't a partnership. This was charity work. Ava wasn't a brilliant entrepreneur, she was their photo op. A headline to clean up their family's reputation after a year of scandals, lawsuits, and bad press. But Ava knew the game. She'd seen it before. This wasn't respect. It was ownership. They didn't want her at the table, they wanted her as the centerpiece. Behind Ava's calm smile was a mind spinning like a supercomputer. Every insult logged. Every slight noted. Every whisper caught. She didn't come here to be their mascot. She came here as a partner. As an equal. But with every smug smirk across the table, one thing became clear: these men didn't see her success as earned, they saw it as borrowed. The weight of that insult was heavy, but Ava had carried heavier things. The weight of rejection letters, boardrooms where she was talked over, investment pitches ignored. This room? These men? They were just the latest obstacle. What they didn't realize, not yet anyway, was that Ava Johnson didn't play by their rules. She made her own. And the storm she was about to unleash? No amount of money could stop it. By now, Ava knew exactly what this was. This wasn't a partnership meeting. It was a performance. And she was the show they invited. The Delacroix family didn't want a collaboration, they wanted a prop. As the meeting dragged on, the so-called jokes kept coming. Polite on the surface. Poison underneath. So tell us, Ms. Johnson, one of the middle sons, Oliver, smirked, how does it feel to finally be in a room like this? I imagine it's not something you experienced growing up. Growing up. Translation, you don't belong here. Translation, we built this. You just wandered in. The older Delacroix men sat like statues, except for their eyes, flickering with that bored amusement rich people get when they feel untouchable. The sons were worse, young, arrogant, raised on generational money and cheap apologies. To them, Ava was just another headline, a diversity project dressed up in designer heels. The room itself seemed to lean in, sensing the tension. Even the journalists stopped pretending to jot notes. Cameras were rolling. Phones recording on silent. Everyone felt it, something bigger was about to break loose, and nobody knew which way it was going to go. And then Charles Delacroix dropped the bomb. Let's stop pretending, he said, folding his hands, voice dripping with condescension. We're the ones giving you legitimacy here. That was it. The final straw. Legitimacy? Legitimacy? Ava's company had developed the AI technology that was already being piloted in 3 of the largest hospital systems in the country. Her software was cutting diagnosis times by 40%, saving real lives in real time. And this man, this dinosaur in a silk tie, thought he was giving her legitimacy? It was the type of comment that doesn't just insult, it erases. But Ava wasn't about to be erased. Something clicked in her head, that feeling successful black women know all too well, the moment when you realize you're not just fighting for yourself, but for every person who's ever been underestimated, overlooked, or tokenized. And in that moment, Ava made a choice: burn the deal. Burn the whole room down if she had to. Slowly, with the kind of deliberate calm that's scarier than screaming, Ava stood up. The chair made a soft scrape on the marble floor, cutting through the thick silence. She straightened her blazer, looked each of them dead in the eye, and finally spoke. Gentlemen, she said, her voice like a blade wrapped in velvet, I didn't come here to be rescued. Pin drop silence. I built this, she continued. From nothing. From rejection after rejection, from pitching investors who wouldn't even look me in the eye because I didn't fit their mold of what a CEO should look like. Her voice didn't tremble. If anything, it got stronger. And if you think I'm going to sit here, smiling, while you turn me into a prop for your PR games, you have severely underestimated me. You could hear the blood rush in people's ears. Someone in the corner dropped a pen. Even the smug sons stopped their smirking, realizing this wasn't the quiet CEO they thought they'd bought with a fancy offer. Ava turned slightly, addressing the whole room, not just the billionaires but the journalists too. Remember this moment, she said softly. Because you're going to be reporting on it for a long, long time. With that, she reached for the stack of papers in front of her, the official, signed agreement. The contract that was supposed to be the highlight of the Delacroix legacy. And in one smooth, deliberate motion. Rip. Right down the middle. No shouting. No grandstanding. Just power. In that instant, the entire energy in the room flipped. The Delacroix family, once smug and towering, now looked like spoiled children caught cheating on a test. Ava didn't flinch. Didn't blink. She stood taller than ever. This wasn't just business anymore. It was war. And Ava Johnson had just fired the first shot. There's a moment in every room where the air just changes. Right after Ava tore that contract down the middle, that moment hit. You could hear it, that sharp intake of breath from the journalists, the quiet panic flashing across the Delacroix family's faces, like they'd just realized they'd pushed the wrong person way too far. And right there, with the shredded contract in her hand, Ava owned the room. The cameras? Still rolling. The reporters? Frozen, pens in midair. Phones lit up across the room as assistants and junior staff realized they were witnessing something viral, something historic, and they didn't want to miss a second of it. Ava didn't need to shout. Didn't need to curse. She had something stronger than rage: control. and she knew exactly how to use it. With one turn toward the press row, she delivered the blow they never saw coming. "Since the cameras are already here," Ava said, her voice cutting through the silence like silk over a blade, "let's make this official." She held the two halves of the shredded $900 million contract up for the cameras, slow and deliberate, like a magician revealing the twist at the end of a trick. Click. 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 The flashes exploded. The younger Delacroix sons, the ones who had been making jokes about her background moments ago, sat frozen, eyes wide, mouths slightly open. They were raised thinking people like Ava Johnson would never stand up to them. That they could buy anyone's pride, dignity, or loyalty with enough zeros on a check. But now? They were realizing, in real time, that some people aren't for sale. Their father, Charles, finally broke the silence. His voice low, trying to reassert control. "You're making a mistake," he said, teeth clenched, voice barely hiding his fury. "But Ava?" Ava smiled. Finally, a genuine smile. Not polite, not political, just pure confidence. "No," she said calmly. "The mistake was thinking I needed you." Boom. That was the line. The one that would be quoted on social media, turned into TikToks, clipped into reaction videos, and dropped into newsletters across the business world. "The mistake was thinking I needed you." And just like that, the power balance flipped. They didn't own this room anymore. Ava did. And that wasn't the only thing she had planned. Because Ava knew exactly how this would play out in the public eye. The optics of a wealthy, white, billionaire family mocking a successful black woman, caught on live cameras, disrespecting her achievements? In this age of viral media and instant backlash? That was suicide, corporate suicide. And Ava wasn't going to be quiet about it. "You brought these cameras here for the photo op," she continued, turning slightly to the stunned press. "But guess what? This just became the story." Gasps. Camera shutters. Phones being lifted, angles adjusted. Reporters with wide eyes furiously scribbling notes, already knowing their headlines before they even left the building. And in that moment, everyone felt it. This wasn't just a billionaire family losing a business deal. This was a dynasty falling apart in real time, publicly, globally, brutally. But Ava wasn't done yet. With absolute grace, she reached into her handbag, pulled out her phone, and without breaking eye contact, tapped the screen a few times. A notification pinged on the phones of several reporters at once. Emails. Press releases. Statements, pre-written, pre-timed, prepared. Ava had anticipated everything. Her statement hit social media before she even left the building. "Today, I turned down a $900 million deal because my dignity is worth more than their dollars. I don't work for people who insult the communities I come from. I build empires with people who respect them." Power. Authority. Message locked. The Delacroix sons were already reaching for their own phones, panicked whispers to PR teams, but it was too late. The narrative was already gone, spiraling, racing across feeds like wildfire. And Ava? She didn't even bother to look back at them. With calm, poised steps, she made her way toward the grand glass doors of that boardroom, heels echoing across the marble like victory drums. The billionaire family had underestimated her. But the world was about to learn what happened when they underestimated Ava Johnson. The fallout didn't take days. It didn't even take hours. It was minutes. By the time Ava's heels clicked across the lobby of that luxury building, her statement was already the #1 trending topic on X, formerly Twitter. Hashtags exploded like fireworks, #AvaJohnson, #WeStandWithAva, #900 million dignity. The Delacroix family didn't just lose a deal, they lost their grip on public image. Within the hour, media outlets scrambled to rework their headlines. What was supposed to be a historic tech partnership announcement became, Black CEO walks away from $900 million deal after racist remarks from billionaire family. Ava Johnson rips up deal on camera. I don't need you. Business talk shows lit up with debates. Social commentators broke down every second of that meeting, frame by frame, like it was the Zapruder film. Analysts praised Ava's poise. Feminist leaders applauded her courage. Black entrepreneurs called it a historic moment in corporate resistance. Meanwhile, the Delacroix family scrambled. First came the denials. "We were misunderstood." Comments taken out of context. Then came the damage control. A forced apology video filmed in some cold, sterile conference room. Charles Delacroix staring at the camera like a hostage, mumbling something about respect for all communities. But it was too late. The internet smelled the lie before the video even hit the algorithm. Memes started flying within minutes. "We're the ones giving you legitimacy" became the punchline of 1,000 jokes, slapped across photos of failed CEOs, dusty old boardrooms, and people wearing cheap suits with Delacroix Energy written underneath. But while the Delacroix empire melted like cheap ice cream in the sun, Ava? She was building something bigger. Behind the scenes, phone calls were already happening. Quiet ones. Ones that mattered more than hashtags. One of those calls came from Elena Navarro, a name Ava knew very well. Elena wasn't just a billionaire, she was a legend in tech circles. Self-made Latina entrepreneur. A rival to the Delacroix family's influence, but with one key difference: integrity. Where the Delacroix family saw Ava as a prop, Elena saw her as a partner. And Elena had been watching the headlines like a hawk. By that evening, they were on a secure video call, smiles flashing across the screen, two women from completely different backgrounds but sharing one thing: they knew what it felt like to be underestimated. "I don't need to save you," Elena said, cool and sharp, "but I'd love to build with you." That's when she dropped the bombshell offer: not $900 million. $1. $2 billion. And not with strings attached, like the Delacroix deal. No staged photos. No backhanded compliments. No PR games. Just business. Just respect. Ava didn't even hesitate. The documents were drafted by midnight. Legal teams worked overtime while social media was still ablaze with memes and think pieces. And it didn't stop there. Major women-led venture funds publicly voiced support for Ava's company. Influential black business organizations pledged future partnerships. Even celebrities started wearing "I don't need you" t-shirts, turning Ava's words into a cultural moment. By morning, Ava Johnson had gone from respected CEO to living legend. And the Delacroix family? They were radioactive. No brand wanted to be seen with them. No board wanted their name on a press release. Sponsors pulled out of their charity galas. Even politicians who used to fawn over them started pretending they barely knew them. It was, as one blogger called it, the most satisfying corporate downfall of the decade. But for Ava? This wasn't just revenge. This was about something more. It was about changing the rules. No more backrooms full of smirking old money expecting handshakes and polite silence in exchange for scraps. Ava Johnson wasn't going to ask for respect anymore. She was going to take it. And this time, she wasn't alone. There was a new wave building behind her now. Women, entrepreneurs, communities long shut out of the Billionaires Club, all seeing Ava's story and realizing they didn't have to beg either. By the time Ava walked into her office the next morning, everything had changed. Gone were the anxious meetings, the cautious investors, the polite smiles hiding subtle doubts. Now, every phone in that office was buzzing, not with problems, but with opportunities. What Ava did in that boardroom didn't just save her dignity, it multiplied her power. Newspaper headlines across the country plastered her photo, mid-stride, leaving the Delacroix offices like a queen exiting a crumbling castle. Memes of her holding the shredded contract were going viral, captioned with quotes like, "Your seat at the table means nothing if they expect you to sit on the floor. We don't need their deals. We make our own." Late-night hosts joked about the Delacroix sons like they were cartoon villains. Activists hailed Ava's move as a landmark moment in corporate resistance. Even Ava's old teachers, people who had once doubted whether she'd ever fit into professional spaces, were now proudly telling everyone they knew that they'd taught her. But this wasn't just fame. It was impact. Within weeks, Nova Systems expanded into new global partnerships. 3 major tech conferences that had previously overlooked Ava's invitations now begged her to headline. And most importantly, the technology that Ava had fought so hard to build? Newspaper headlines across the country plastered her photo, mid-stride, leaving the Delacroix offices like a queen exiting a crumbling castle. Memes of her holding the shredded contract were going viral, captioned with quotes like, "Your seat at the table means nothing if they expect you to sit on the floor. We don't need their deals. We make our own." Late-night hosts joked about the Delacroix sons like they were cartoon villains. Activists hailed Ava's move as a landmark moment in corporate resistance. Even Ava's old teachers, people who had once doubted whether she'd ever fit into professional spaces, were now proudly telling everyone they knew that they'd taught her. But this wasn't just fame. It was impact. Within weeks, Nova Systems expanded into new global partnerships. 3 major tech conferences that had previously overlooked Ava's invitations now begged her to headline. And most importantly, the technology that Ava had fought so hard to build? It was working. Nova's AI diagnostics rolled out to dozens of hospitals across underserved communities, slashing patient wait times, flagging early-stage illnesses, and saving real, human lives. For Ava, it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about that single mom in Atlanta who caught her cancer early because of a Nova diagnostic scan. It was about that teenager in Houston whose chronic condition got detected before it became life-threatening. It was about communities that billionaires ignored, getting access to life-saving technology because someone finally said no to the old systems of power. And while Ava's empire was rising, the Delacroix family? They were sinking fast. Brands severed sponsorships. Speaking engagements got cancelled. Charles Delacroix's carefully polished legacy crumbled under the weight of receipts, replays, and relentless public shame. Their PR teams tried spinning it every which way. "We've always supported diversity, it was a misunderstanding, we support Ava's success," but none of it worked. Because the truth was on camera. And the truth had already gone viral. What made it worse for the Delacroix dynasty was that they didn't just lose the deal, they lost relevance. Once, they were the gatekeepers. The tastemakers. The rich old family behind closed doors making the world move. Now, they were just a meme. Meanwhile, Ava didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Her revenge wasn't pettiness, it was progress. And while the world argued over think pieces in news cycles, Ava was already 3 steps ahead, building things bigger than headlines. In one interview, weeks after the incident, a journalist asked her the question everyone was thinking. "Do you regret tearing up that $900 million deal?" Ava didn't hesitate. "I don't regret anything," she said. "What's the point of wealth if you have to sell your dignity to get it? I didn't come here to join their empire. I came to build my own." That answer? Front page. Viral again. But for Ava, it wasn't performance, it was personal. And it wasn't just about her anymore. Across the country, women, especially black women, young entrepreneurs, first-generation founders, started quoting her. Schools held assemblies about her story. Business podcasts analyzed her strategy. Book deals, documentaries, biopics, they all came knocking. But more importantly, she'd created a blueprint. No more playing by their rules. No more waiting for acceptance at someone else's table. Ava Johnson built her own. And the best part? She left the door open for everyone else. So for anyone watching that viral clip of Ava Johnson standing tall, tearing that contract, and walking out of that boardroom like royalty, remember this: you don't need their permission. You don't need their money. You just need your voice, your vision, and the guts to walk away when they insult it. That's how legends are made. If you love this story of power, courage, and success on your own terms, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell, and stick around, because we're just getting started.